Okay. Okay, good morning everyone. Good morning. Okay. Okay, good morning everyone. Okay. So in this particular class we will discuss a complete endocrine system. Okay. Good morning everyone. So friends, we know that from the endocrine system we can expect the part B question also, or we can expect the part C question also, and friends, if our luck is good, even we can expect the both questions also. I mean to say both part B as well as the part C also. Okay, so please don't neglect this particular topic. And friends, tomorrow 11:30 a.m. sharp we are having a class on strategies and how to avoid the negative marking, examination hall strategy and how to avoid the negative marking. Please attend this particular class tomorrow without fail. Okay, so now let's start endocrine system. Good morning everyone. Friends, what kind of questions we can expect from this particular chapter? And always remember, we can expect statement based questions. And please remember friends, actually in this particular endocrine system we can expect the questions in the form of case studies. Okay, see, because a particular a particular disease occurred and it was treated properly, and once again the symptoms got reappeared, what is the probable reason? So every time the questions will be with respect to the case studies. So either statement or case studies. In very rare cases you can get the experimental based question. Okay, now whenever you are revising, what you people has to revise actually, all the students follow me correctly. See, first you remember the name of the hormone. Everyone remember the name of the hormone. Remember which precursor is involved. Once again, remember the name of the hormone, remember the which precursor is involved. Most importantly, which amino acid can acting as the precursor. Most important, the functions. Okay, so at the same time you should know the generalized information about the hormone with respect to the case studies. Okay, anyway you will understand it easily. Focus. Good morning everyone. Okay, so friends, we have discussed it many times. I'll go a little faster, so I'm requesting all of you try to understand it faster. Endocrine system. Friends, the moment we heard the name of an endocrine system, what you have to remember, endocrine system includes all the endocrine glands of the body. All the good morning continue everyone. It contains all the endocrine glands present in the body and whatever the hormones that they are going to produce. Friends, follow me. I will explain one hormone in 3 to 4 points. Whichever the points that I am highlighting, I want every student has to remember those statements as it is. Now we know that friends, endocrine glands are those type of glands which are going to pour their secretions directly into the bloodstream. Do not get confused with this particular point. That's why we call it as the ductless glands. What do you mean by that, friends? Endocrine glands can't store their hormones. Endocrine glands do not have any bag-like structure, do not have any pouch-like structure. That is the reason endocrine glands, whatever the hormones that they are releasing, they will directly secrete or release into the blood circulation only. So the best, many glands are there, we're going to discuss it. What is the speciality of exocrine glands, friends? Exocrine glands are those type of glands, they are having bag-like structures, they are having pouch-like structures. So friends, they are having a bag or a pouch-like structures. So what's the point you have to remember? They can easily carry, everyone remember my statements very carefully, they can easily store them in their lumen or in their pouch like structures or in their bag like structures. And friends, the question is very important: where does this particular endocrine glands are present in our body? Do you think endocrine glands are present only at a particular area of the body? No. Friends, endocrine glands are present, our endocrine system is present throughout the body. So it is starting from hypothalamus till the testes and ovaries. Everywhere the endocrinal hormones are acting on. So everyone quickly recall. Friends, what's the function of an endocrine gland? The ultimate function of endocrine gland is what, friends? Synthesis of a hormones. Let me give you 3 important statements about the hormones. First important statement about the hormone, I'll go little faster, friends, please follow me. Hormones can act as a chemical messenger, which means that, friends, they are going to carry the signals from one part of the body to the other part of the body. There is no doubt about it. And every student, keep it in your mind without fail. Any hormone, friends, follow me correctly, whether it is the plant hormone, whether it is the animal hormone, doesn't matter, friends. Any hormone, if it wants to show their action, the hormone should be released in a very small concentration. If the hormone is releasing more than the normal concentration, it cannot show any kind of activity. Any hormone want to show their activity, it should be released in the small concentration, and we all people know that very well. If the hormone wants to bring their action, if the hormone wants to show their action, it is compulsory, it is mandatory. The hormone has to come and associated with its particular receptor. If the hormone did not associated with the receptor, there is no way the hormone is going to show their action. Always keep it in your mind, whether it is a lipid-soluble hormone or whether it is a water-soluble hormone, my friends, it doesn't matter. If the hormone wants to show its function, it is compulsory, it has to attach to the specific receptor. Now the question is, friends, how did we categorize the receptors? We categorized the receptors based on the type of the hormones. There are 2 type of hormones are there: lipid-soluble hormones, water-soluble hormones. We all people know it very well. Now all the students follow me very correctly without confusion. When I use a word lipid-soluble hormone, what you have to remember, they can easily cross the plasma membrane, is it or not? So they can easily cross the plasma membrane, but the rule is what? If they want to show their action, they will be requiring the receptor compulsory. So friends, lipid-soluble hormone always uses intracellular receptor. There is no doubt about it. And friends, when you look into the water-soluble hormones, what is the point you have to remember? We know very well that the water-soluble hormones cannot diffuse through the plasma membrane. So by associating with the plasma membrane only, they have to show their action. How is that possible? Friends, they cannot diffuse through the cell membranes, so they always use the receptor which are present on the cell surface only. That kind of receptors only, friends, we will be calling it as the cell surface receptor. Do not get confused with that particular point. I want every one of you look into this diagram very carefully, friends. All the students follow me correctly. Just understand. This is the, I have explained you previously very elaboratively. This is the hormones. Which hormone it is? It's a lipid-soluble hormone. So friends, since it is a lipid-soluble hormone, it can easily cross the plasma membrane and it entered into the nucleus followed by the cytoplasm. What's the point, my friends? If they want to show their action, if the hormone brings about their action, it is compulsory, it is mandatory, it has to associated with its particular receptor. Do not get confused with that. Without associating to its receptor, it can't show their action. What are the examples of the lipid-soluble hormones? You take example of all the steroid hormones: estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, corticosteroid. even certain androgens, even you can take the cortisol, cortisone, corticosterone. All these hormone speciality is what? They can easily cross the plasma membrane. And the reason, how can they easily cross the plasma membrane? How is that possible? The reason is very simple. All these steroidal hormones, friends, they are having cholesterol as their major derivative. You all people know, right friends, what is the speciality of a cholesterol? Cholesterol is also type of lipid, so it can easily cross the membrane. So whatever the hormones that they are having cholesterol as their backbone, they can easily cross the plasma membrane. I have explained you briefly, friends. I am always discussing with respect to the revision. That's why I will stress on the point which is important and which has to be remembered. Okay, now friends, when you look into the water soluble hormones, what do you have to remember? Water soluble hormones are of three types: amine, peptide, as well as the eicosanoid hormones. What is the point I want you people to remember? Follow me very correctly. Amine hormones. Why I am using the word amine hormones? Because friends, certain hormones are exclusively derived from the amino acids. So amino acids are acting as a precursors for the synthesis of those hormones. And friends, if you look into the peptide hormones, what you have to remember? They are exclusively proteinaceous in nature. Then friends, eicosanoid hormones, they are a very special type. Okay, I don't know what you do. My sincere request to all of you, you have to remember all these hormones without fail. If you look into the amine hormones, please remember friends, epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine, histamine, serotonin. I will explain one statement. Dopamine, it is what friends? A kind of emergency hormone. Instead of emergency hormone, we can use the word adrenaline actually. Dopamine, you can remember friends, emotional, which can control the emotional feelings in the central nervous system. Histamine, you all people know that derived from histidine, which is exclusively plays a key role in the allergic reaction. And friends, serotonin, which is derived from the tryptophan. Everyone please listen my statements very carefully friends. Serotonin is the type of hormone which is also can act as a neurotransmitter. All the students follow me. 90%, follow me correctly friends, 90% of central nervous system functions under the control of serotonin only. Once again listen my statement correctly. 90% of the central nervous system functions under the control of serotonin only. Do not get confused with that particular point. Anyway, we are going to discuss all peptide hormone, insulin, oxytocin, antidiuretic hormone, growth hormone. We know very well insulin is the one which can maintain the blood glucose level. Oxytocin required for uterine contraction. ADH is responsible for the maintaining the sodium and potassium homeostasis. You can say that it can control the blood volume, it can control the blood pressure, it can maintain the sodium and potassium homeostasis. Friends, what will be the exceptional class? The exceptional class is the eicosanoid hormones. Kindly don't get confused with this point. Example are prostaglandins and leukotrienes. Even while we are studying the hypersensitivity also, I have explained it to all of you. Prostaglandin and leukotrienes, they are basically derived from what friends? They are all basically derived from the arachidonic acid derivatives. Every student keep it in your mind. What is the speciality of this particular arachidonic acid? Arachidonic acid is a type of lipid only, but upon breaking down, it gives rise to prostaglandin and leukotriene that plays a crucial role in the process of inflammation. Don't get confused. But friends, what's the statement every student has to remember? All these hormones, they can't cross the plasma membrane. Correct Abdul. So they have to use the receptor which is compulsory, GPCR. What is the speciality of a GPCR? We have read in the cell signaling also friends. So GPCR is the cell surface receptor. So all the students listen. This is a water-soluble hormone. Water-soluble hormone, upon associating with the G protein, then we know the pathways. I don't want to discuss the pathways, we have already seen. So finally they can bring the response by activating several secondary messenger. What is the point you have to remember for the exam? All the water soluble hormones are going to utilize the cell surface receptor. That's the point I want you people to remember. Now friends, now we will discuss about one by one elaboratively. Now hypothalamus. What you can say about the hypothalamus? You can say it is the master. It's a kind of a master gland. What is the ultimate function? Ultimate function of the hypothalamus is, friends, linking. What it is linking? It is linking the nervous system with the endocrine system. What, friends? It is the one which is linking the nervous system with the endocrine system, because we know very well everything is under the control of a nervous system only. Even the hormonal release also under the control of a nervous system. There is no doubt about it. So that nervous system can be connected to the endocrine system via or with the help of hypothalamus. We all people know very well, among all, the most important gland. What is that, friends? Pituitary gland. We know that very well. Friends, if you look into the pituitary gland, all the students please listen, focus correctly. Pituitary gland anatomically, I mean to say structurally, or structurally, it contains two parts. Everyone pay attention. It contains the anterior pituitary as well as it contains posterior pituitary. I want all the students has to remember anterior pituitary. We can also call it, friends, adenohypophysis. Please remember my words. And this anterior pituitary occupies 75% of the space. And posterior pituitary, friends, we will be calling it as the neurohypophysis. It occupies only 25% of the space. Please do not get confused with this particular point. And the most important and unique statement every student has to remember for the exam is that, follow me correctly, posterior pituitary never ever synthesize any hormone. Always remember that. Posterior pituitary gland never ever synthesize any hormone. Now you all people has to get one valid doubt. What is the doubt every student has to get? If the posterior pituitary gland is not synthesizing any hormone, what is the role? You all people keep it in your mind, friends. Posterior pituitary gland exclusively plays a crucial role in the storage. It can't synthesize anything, but it can store something. It cannot store every single hormone, friends. It can store only two major hormones. What are the names of the two major hormones that can be stored by the posterior pituitary gland? I want you to remember these things without fail. I have explained you briefly. I'll summarize everything. Oxytocin, antidiuretic hormone, as well as we can also call it as the vasopressin. I have told you that, friends, anterior pituitary gland will occupy 75% of the position. Correct, na? And this anterior pituitary gland consists of many hormones. Thyroid stimulating hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, prolactin, adrenocorticotropic hormone, melanocyte stimulating hormone, and many more. And these are all said to be the most important hormone. I don't know what you do. It's your responsibility to remember the function of every single hormone without fail. Anyway, I'm going to summarize all the functions very briefly and elaboratively. Just pay attention. Posterior pituitary hormones: oxytocin, antidiuretic, or vasopressin. Let's talk about the posterior pituitary first, because there are only two hormones are there. So friends, what did I tell to all of you? Friends, posterior pituitary we can also call it as neurohypophysis. And what did I tell you? It can occupy only 25% of the posterior pituitary gland. What did I tell you? It never ever produce any hormone like anterior pituitary. Is it? Instead of producing the hormones, so what it is doing? It is just, all the students follow me, it just stores. Whenever there is a requirement, it is going to release that particular two hormones. What are the examples of hormones? Oxytocin and vasopressin. Whenever you heard the name of a oxytocin, all the students has to remember 2 points. That is, oxytocin plays a crucial role before the childbirth. Oxytocin plays a crucial role after the childbirth. Before the childbirth, keep it in your mind, friends, oxytocin is exclusively required for the process of uterine contraction. Except uterine contraction, it do not have any role, because you know, right, during the labor time, the vaginal and uterus muscles are keep on contracting continuously, right? So how does that contraction will occur? By the action of the oxytocin only. Now after the birth, once the birth occur, we call her the mother as the lactating mother, correct na? See friends, please don't get confused. Most of the people will confuse that oxytocin is involved in the production of the milk, which is absolutely wrong statement. Oxytocin never ever involved in the production of the milk. Then what it is meant for? Keep it in your mind. Oxytocin is going to stimulate milk ejection. Ejection is different, production is different. Production can be done by the prolactin. Whenever the newborn baby, whenever the baby is suckling the mammary glands, whenever the newborn baby is suckling the mammary glands, oxytocin concentration become increasing, and oxytocin is ejecting the milk out from the mammary glands with respect to the suckling action of the nursing infant. So before it is involved in the uterine contraction, after the birth it is required for what, friends? Milk ejection. It do not have any direct or indirect role in the milk production. Please don't get confused with that. Now see friends, I'll go little fast because we have to cover a lot of information. Now we understand about the oxytocin. What is the second hormone? Second hormone we can call the ADH or vasopressin. You always try to remember the functions and regulation, nothing else. Okay. Now in a given 4 marker statements, they will give one of the statement. What is that statement? Hormones will be released all the time in the body. What is the statement? Hormones will be released all the time in the body, which is absolutely wrong statement. None of the hormone in our body never ever released if there is a no requirement. It is releasing only whenever there is a requirement. High blood osmotic pressure. So you have to follow me correctly. When the ADH is releasing when the blood osmotic pressure is extremely higher, only it will release. Now you can ask me a valid question, sir, why the osmotic pressure is increasing? The reason is because of the dehydration, because of the diarrhea, and because of the excessive sweating. Follow me very correctly. Friends, in the dehydration, in the diarrhea, in the excessive sweating, what is the most common point that you people can understand? The most common point you people can remember is that, follow me very correctly. In 3 cases, there is a loss of ion, correct na? Even the excessive sweating, sodium will go, dehydration, sodium, potassium will go, even diarrhea also, most of the solutes or fluids will be completely lost. All the students follow me. When there is a loss of fluids, what is going to happen? Friends, there will be a high blood osmotic pressure. Please do not get confused with this particular statement at all. Now, listen my statements very, very carefully without having any kind of a confusion. Follow me everyone. Whenever there is a blood pressure is higher, you know friends, immediately what happening? Because of the higher blood pressure, osmoreceptors, what friends? Osmoreceptor present in the blood circulation, osmoreceptors present in the hypothalamus, they get activated. Now immediately what is going to happen? There is a specialized neurons, we will be calling it as the neurosecretory cells. What is the speciality of a neurosecretory cells? They will secrete or release the hormone. What is the hormone released by the neurosecretory cells or the specialized neurons present in the hypothalamus. We can call the anti-diuretic hormone. Friends, now the anti-diuretic hormone, what it is going to do? This anti-diuretic hormone, friends, synthesize the hormones. I'm extremely sorry. 1 minute. Once the neurosecretory cells releases the anti-diuretic hormone, anti-diuretic hormone travels. Where it will travels? It will travel from the hypothalamus to the posterior pituitary. From the posterior pituitary, friends, finally it releases and act on kidney, act on blood vessels, acting on the skin. Suppose example, every student follow me very correctly. Whenever the ADH released and it is acting on the kidney, what it will do, friends? It is basically decreasing. What it is decreasing, friends? It is decreasing the urine output. Everyone follow me very correctly, friends. If there is a decrease in the urine output, what will happen? If there is a decrease in the urine output, what will happen? Lot of solutes never ever go out of the body, then the blood pressure becomes normal. At the same time, it act on the skin, and what it will do, you know, it will decrease the process of perspiration. What is perspiration, friends? Sweating. Friends, once the sweat get decreased, especially sodium ion never go out of the sweat. Right, now it will constrict the blood vessels. When it constricts the blood vessels, whatever the high blood osmotic pressure is there, the blood pressure comes down. Why? Because example, if the blood vessel is like this, more amount of the blood can easily flow, but the blood vessel is constricted like this, the more amount of the blood cannot flow. By that, the blood pressure drastically falls down. In one single line, what I want to say, whenever there is a increase in the blood pressure, immediately osmoreceptors present in the hypothalamus get activated. Immediately hypothalamus stimulate the neurosecretory cells. Neurosecretory cells will release the ADH. ADH will, every student remember, ADH act on the kidney as well as act on the skin, act on the blood vessel. Ultimately, what you people has to remember, friends? Okay, it is acting on the smooth muscle. By that, it will basically control the blood pressure. Very, very simple point it is. Now, those are all what, friends? The two hormones of the posterior pituitary gland. Now, please remember the next gland. We have studied only two hormones of the posterior pituitary gland. No. See, polyuria, no, that is wrong statement, Abdul. Whatever you asked is completely wrong statement. ADH never maintain the polyuria, okay? When the ADH concentration become low, what happen? The urine, it creates a great effect on the kidney, then the urine flow becomes more. You know, right? An example, a person is taking alcohol continuously. Whenever a person is taking alcohol continuously, what is happening? ADH level will be drastically increases, which creates a great effect on the kidney, and that particular person passing the urine on a continuous basis, right? It is not required to maintain the polyuria condition. Remember my statement, because of the fluctuations in the ADH, the polyuria will occur. You got that? Okay, so we read the two hormones of posterior pituitary. Now we are going to discuss what, friends? Anterior pituitary. What is the statement we discussed that, friends? Anterior pituitary is the one which is basically occupying 75% of the entire pituitary gland. What we discussed, posterior pituitary cannot synthesize any hormone, but every student please keep it in your mind. Anterior pituitary gland synthesizes or secrete the hormones. Most importantly, every student please keep it in your mind, it plays a crucial role in regulation of hormones. It plays a crucial role in the regulation of the hormones. Do not get confused with this particular point. Okay, everyone please look into the diagram. Just remember the name. This is hypothalamus, correct na? and this is the anterior pituitary. Friends, here a hormone is released. All the students follow me very correctly. Here the hormone is released, friends. Now just follow me very correctly. Now this hormone has to reach us to the anterior pituitary gland. Yes or no? Of course yes. Now the question is, my friends, how does this particular hormone is reaching the anterior pituitary gland? That is the question. It can reach to the anterior pituitary gland via hypophyseal portal system. How, friends? Via hypophyseal portal system it is going to reach. Please do not get confused with this particular points. Hypophyseal portal system is an important system which consists of, what does it consist of? Blood vessels which are bringing the hormone from the hypothalamus into anterior pituitary gland. Now friends, let's discuss about all the type of hormones that are released from the anterior pituitary gland. I will teach little faster, just pay attention and try to understand. Friends, we discussed that the posterior pituitary hormone can store only 2 hormones and release only those 2 hormones. But when you look into the anterior pituitary gland, friends, there will be a releasing of many hormones. Please don't confuse that only one type of anterior pituitary cells only can release all the hormones. Follow me once again correctly. Do not think that only one type of anterior pituitary cells only can release all the hormones. No, there are many type of anterior pituitary cells are there. Somatotropes. Somatotropes are very specific to synthesize only human growth hormone. We can also call it as a somatotropin. We have studied it. Now another type of anterior pituitary cell, thyrotrope, which only release thyroid stimulating hormone. Gonadotropes, which can only produce gonadotropins like follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone. We're gonna read it. Lactotropes, which can secrete only prolactin. Corticotropes, one of the most important hormone where we use it to get the questions more oftenly. The corticotropes release the corticotropin hormone. What is the best example? ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. We will read that. Okay. Now what I want you people to remember from now onwards. From now onwards, every hormone, what is their specific function, how it is getting regulated. Remember once again, every hormone, what is the function of that particular hormone and how it is getting regulated. Only these 3 points I want you to remember. And just follow me very correctly what I am explaining to all of you. Follicle stimulating hormone. Who is going to release this particular follicle stimulating hormone? The release of follicle stimulating hormone can be stimulated by the gonadotropic releasing hormone. And friends, gonadotropic releasing hormone can be stimulated by what? The neurosecretory cells present in the hypothalamus. Once the FSH will be released, it is acting on the male also, it is acting on the female also. What it will do on the female? Every student follow me very correctly. Follow me the first point. In female, it is required for the development of the ovarian follicles which is present around the ovary. Now, what that ovarian follicles will do? Ovarian follicles are the one which is involved in the releasing of a hormone which is the estrogen. Never get confused with that, friends. Next, very unique statement you have to remember. What the FSH will do in the male, just keep it in your mind, friends. The FSH is the one which involved in the sperm production. How it is involved in the sperm production, friends? By stimulating a cell called as Sertoli cells. By stimulating the production of the Sertoli cells, it is required to stimulate the sperm production. Friends, please do not get confused with this particular point at all. Okay, FSH in case of a female required for estrogen production, FSH in case of a male required for the sperm production. Now friends, whenever you are reading the luteinizing hormone also, same points you remember. Luteinizing hormone is also released by the GnRH hormone GnRH is regulated under the hypothalamus only. Same way, LH also act on the male, LH also act on the female. Keep it in your mind, the hormone LH in case of a female, remember the statement as it is. LH in case of a female required for the formation of a corpus luteum. You know now friends, I am not explaining depth, we already seen. The moment egg get released from the mature ovarian follicle, what we get? Whatever the part that is left out after releasing the egg, that is only what we can call corpus luteum. Why we are talking about the corpus luteum? Corpus luteum is the one which is basically synthesizing the most important hormone in the female body, progesterone. We all know the specialty of a progesterone. Progesterone is said to be the female sex hormone which is involved in the development of a secondary sexual characteristics in the female, like breast development, like smooth voice in the females. That's why we can call the important sex hormone involved in the development of a secondary sexual characteristics. Simple point. Now in the testis, what the LH is doing, it is involved in the testosterone production. Like however I am saying progesterone is the female sex hormone, testosterone is the male sex hormone which is involved in the development of secondary sexual characteristics in the male, like beard, mustache, as well as the rough voice. These are all what secondary sexual characteristics that is influenced by the testosterone. In case of female, secondary sexual characteristics influenced by the progesterone. So LH helpful in the female in the production of progesterone, LH helpful in the male in the production of the testosterone. But what's the generalized point that everyone has to remember? Whether it is the FSH, whether it is the LH, doesn't matter. Both the FSH and LH under the control of GnRH, and the GnRH is under the control of hypothalamus. So what's the point you have to remember? Suppose example, if I want to control, if I want to regulate the level of the FSH or LH, I can control it from the GnRH also. Even I can control from the directly from the hypothalamus also. Don't get confused. Remember the functions, regulation, nothing else. Now prolactin, I already told to all of you, oxytocin is the hormone which is involved in the ejection. Don't confuse. Prolactin is the hormone which is involved in the milk production. Involved in the milk production. Don't get confused. But you know very well, before the pregnancy, the woman is not lactating. Correct na? Before pregnancy, woman cannot give the milk. So what you have to remember, before pregnancy, the prolactin hormone is getting inhibited. Now please every student remember my words. Before the pregnancy, the prolactin can be inhibited by dopamine. Friends, please don't get confused. Dopamine or PIH, prolactin inhibiting hormone or dopamine, is the one which is actually involved in inhibiting the level of the prolactin before the pregnancy. Don't get confused. Now during the 7th month and after the pregnancy, the mother has to be lactate. So which means that the mother has to produce the milk. If the milk wants to be produced, the prolactin level should be raised. Yes or no friends? Of course yes. If the prolactin level wants to be raised, we should block the dopamine. We should block the PIH. Yes or no? Of course yes. Now the question is very clear. How can we block the dopamine? How can we block the PIH? We can block the dopamine or we can block the PIH with the help of a hormone called as PRH. What is PRH? Follow me friends correctly. Prolactin releasing hormone. Prolactin releasing hormone is the name of the hormone which block. What it is blocking? It is blocking the dopamine. It is blocking the prolactin inhibiting hormone. When it block, you know what will happen? Prolactin level will be increased. Then friends, after the pregnancy, milk production will occur continuously. What you people has to remember for the exam point of view, which hormone is inhibiting the milk prolactin, which hormone is stimulating the prolactin. That's what I want you people to remember without fail. Then I can say one of the most important question which was asked for the exam, that is the adrenocorticotropic hormone. It's a very important, friends. Okay, now please listen. What is the major hormone that is released because of the adrenocorticotropic hormone? I'll explain it elaboratively. This one, just pay attention. The major hormone released by the ACTH is the cortisol. Friends, what is cortisol? We all people know, right? We can call the cortisol as the stress hormone. You have to remember the point, which means that the cortisol is not at all releasing in the body every single time. Cortisol is going to be released whenever we are under the stress condition, whenever our body contains a very low glucose level, whenever we are under the trauma condition. Trauma means what? Internal injury, internal bleeding is happening. Only during this particular condition the cortisol is getting released. Now I will tell you what happens when the cortisol will get released. All the students follow me very correctly, friends. Just listen to me carefully. Suppose example, what is the condition, friends? Follow me everyone. There is a condition of low blood glucose level. There is a condition of a severe stress. There is a condition of a physical trauma. During this condition, follow me very correctly, friends. Neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus. Which cells of the hypothalamus? Neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus, which we also call it as the, every student remember, specialized neurons. So specialized neurons present in the hypothalamus, they are releasing CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone. Now what is happening? This corticotropin releasing hormone, it will travel from where to where? It will travel from the hypothalamus into the anterior pituitary gland. Once, all the students follow me correctly, once the CRH entered into the anterior pituitary gland, it stimulates the anterior pituitary gland. Why it will stimulate the anterior pituitary gland? To synthesize a hormone called as ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. This adrenocorticotropic hormone acting on the adrenal gland. Especially, friends, it is acting on which part of the adrenal gland? That is important. It is acting on the adrenal cortex of the adrenal gland. We will discuss that. Finally, friends, the adrenal cortex is going to do what? Cortisol. Now all the students listen my statements very carefully. What the cortisol is going to do in our body? Why the cortisol is very, very important? Friends, all the students listen. Cortisol basically comes under a category called as glucocorticoids. I'll explain you. We have seen last time also. There are many glucocorticoids are there. Examples of glucocorticoids are cortisol, corticosterone and cortisone. You people keep it in your mind, even though there are many glucocorticoids that are synthesized in the body, among all, the most important glucocorticoid is the cortisol. Friends, the moment cortisol released in our body, what is happening? It is performing multiple functions. Gluconeogenesis, protein mobilization or protein breakdown, fat mobilization or fat breakdown. Every student follow me very correctly, friends. Imagine a condition. In the biochemistry, we have studied very, very clearly what is gluconeogenesis. Glucose, new, genesis, production of the glucose from the new sources. What do you mean by the word new source? Other than the carbohydrate. That is what exactly, my friends, we call it as the gluconeogenesis. Every student follow me very correctly, friends. Everyone. Suppose I am under harvesting condition. I am not doing fasting. The first 24 hours only we will be calling fasting. Once it crosses 24 hours, we will be calling harvesting condition. So when I am under harvesting condition, I will be needing the food. So in the first 24 hours only, 90% of the glycogen that is stored in our body, it can be consumed very easily, right? So after 24 hours, we will be requiring what? Obviously friends, we will be requiring the energy, but there is no carbohydrate source. That time what the body will do? They will convert the amino acid and lactic acid into glucose. We know that amino acid and lactic acid are carbohydrates? No, right? These are all other than carbohydrates. So production of the ATP or the production of glucose from other sources other than the carbohydrate, that is what we can call gluconeogenesis. That gluconeogenesis can be stimulated by the cortisol, which is a specialized glucocorticoid, and it stimulates the proteolysis. What is proteolysis? Breaking down of the protein. We know, right friends, our muscles contain adequate amount of the protein. That protein can be released, convert into amino acid. Amino acid enter into the bloodstream. We already studied in the biochemistry. Amino acid giving rise to the pyruvate. Now the pyruvate enter into the glycolysis, giving rise to the ATP. So what's the ultimate goal? Ultimately, by breaking down the protein, we are getting energy during the harvesting conditions. Similarly, it will promote the lipolysis. We know very well, when compared to the carbohydrate and when compared to the protein, lipids will give more amount of the energy. There is no doubt about it. Every student follow me. It promotes triglyceride breakdown in adipose tissue, releasing fatty acids into the blood. Never ever get confused with that particular point. Now, extremely friends, when the level of cortisol will be increased in our body, this is the question. Everyone keep it in your mind. The level of cortisol will be increased in our body, especially fasting, fright, infection, trauma. You can ask me a valid question. Sir, why the cortisol has to be released in this condition? In these conditions, actually our cells will be requiring more amount of the ATP when compared to the normal time. Do not think that when we are under the stress condition, most amount of the energy cannot be used. It is not like that. When we are under the stress conditions only, the cell has to work very efficiently. If the cell wants to work very efficiently under the stress condition, it will be requiring lot of energy. So in order to utilize more amount of the energy, the cortisol will helpful in that generation of the ATP or energy. So that's why cortisol level will be dramatically increased only during the adverse condition. Don't get confused. Okay, cortisol is released, cortisol is controlled, everything. Now the question is very clear. After controlling entire situation, what should we do? We have to regulate the cortisol. It's a very important. If you don't regulate the hormone level becomes higher, which leads to a toxic effect, even which leads to the death also. That's why friends, every hormone, not only one hormone, every single hormone in our body has to be highly regulated. Do not get confused with that particular point. Follow me very correctly friends. Now cortisol performed all the function. It relieved the stress completely. Now we have to regulate the level of the cortisol. How can we regulate the level of cortisol? In two ways. Who is releasing the cortisol? Adrenal cortex. Adrenal cortex is getting the signal from where? ACTH. ACTH is getting the signal from where? Anterior pituitary gland. So the statement you have to remember that the cortisol, we can regulate the cortisol by sending a signal to the anterior pituitary gland. When we send a signal, what signal? That cortisol concentration is getting elevated, it is getting increased. Then anterior pituitary gland stop secreting the ACTH. Then please follow me very correctly, friends. This is what you can also regulate the you can also regulate the cortisol directly from hypothalamus, because hypothalamus is the one giving the signal to the anterior pituitary gland, correct na? So in a simple way, in a one word, you can control the level of the cortisol from the anterior pituitary gland also, as well as, friends, from the hypothalamus also. Don't get confused with that point. Okay, so next hormone, I am going little faster, I want you to follow. And Abdul, we know, right, the emergency hormone in our body is adrenaline. Adrenaline is the one which is released in all the condition, whether we are under fright, whether we are under flight, whether we are under any emergency condition, the adrenaline will be released. That's why we can call it emergency hormone. Not only that reason, I'll tell you in the upcoming slide, adrenaline is basically controlling the blood pressure. Adrenaline is basically controlling the cardiac output. Adrenaline is basically controlling the heart rhythm. That's why we called adrenaline is the emergency hormone. Okay. Okay. Follow me, friends. Next gland, thyroid gland. Everyone follow me very correctly. What you have to remember? The functions of the hormone. See, this is what, friends, larynx. You can see in the picture very clearly. So below the larynx, what is present, friends? Look into the picture, everyone. Below the larynx, there is a presence of the thyroid gland, you can see here. Correct, na? Friends, if you look into the structure of a thyroid gland very clearly, all the students follow me. It consists of a right lobe, it consists of a left lobe. Friends, don't get confused. And all the students follow me. Right lobe and left lobe, they can be separated by a structure which we can call isthmus. Don't confuse, friends. The right and left pituitary thyroid gland can be separated by a structure called isthmus. Friends, you all people can see the structure, right? They are having a spherical sac-like structures. You can see, right? Friends, this spherical sac-like structures only we will be generally calling it as the follicular cells. What we will be calling, my friends? We will be calling them as the follicular cells. All the students keep it in your mind. And friends, this follicular cells only going to secrete two important thyroid hormones, T3 hormone, T4 hormone. So once again, all the students has to remember a statement. What is the statement you have to remember? The hormone T3 and hormone T4 is not getting released every single time. When the hormone T3 and T4 is getting released, these hormones are getting released when their concentration is becoming lower than the normal. Once again, listen. When their concentration is becoming lower than the normal, and the second and most important case when the T3 and T4 are getting released is when the BMR is low. What was that BMR? Basal metabolic rate. When the basal metabolic rate is extremely lower, then only it is releasing actually. Don't get confused with that particular statement, friends. Follow me very correctly. Every student follow me. When low BMR or low T3 and BMR is what? Basal metabolic rate. Based on the basal metabolic rate only, we can determine how many number of calories will be required in order to gain the weight, in order to lose the weight. Okay. Now, if the BMR level is low or the T3 and T4 levels are low, then friends, all the students, please look into the diagram very carefully without confusion. There is a low blood levels of T3 and T4 or there is a low BMR. Immediately what is happening, friends? The hypothalamus. We know, right? Hypothalamus contain what kind of cells, friends? Hypothalamus contain neurosecretory cells. So friends, the neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus, what it is doing? It is releasing an important hormone, friends, we can call TRH. What is the full form of TRH? Thyrotropin releasing hormone. What is releasing, friends? thyrotropin hormone is getting released. Now this thyrotropin releasing hormone, every student follow me, this thyrotropin releasing hormone, it will travel. Where it will travel? It will travel till the anterior pituitary gland, follow me, and it will activate the anterior pituitary gland. Then anterior pituitary gland will release the hormone called as TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Now friends, you know what is happening? This thyroid stimulating hormone released into the blood. And what the thyroid stimulating hormone is doing? It will stimulate the thyroid follicles. This is the thyroid, these are all thyroid follicle cells. Now friends, the thyroid follicle cells are getting stimulated. When the thyroid follicle cells getting stimulated, all the students follow me, then there will be a release of T3 and T4. You only try to understand friends, once there will be a release of T3 and T4, what is going to happen? T3 and T4 levels becomes normal. T3 and T4 control the BMR, which means T3 and T4 finally performed their functions. After performing their functions, there is no doubt that T3 and T4 has to be regulated compulsory. There is no doubt about it. Now friends, the question is here, how can we regulate? All the students pay attention. Same. Who stimulated the release of a T3 and T4? Thyroid stimulating hormone released it. Correct na? So in order to regulate the T3 and T4, friends, we are going to regulate thyroid stimulating hormones. So once we control the TSH, there is no release of T3 and T4. Not only that, directly I can give the signal to the TRH, because once the hypothalamus get the signal, TRH cannot be released. If no TRH, no TSH. If no TSH, no T3 and T4. Such a simple step it is. So anything you can control from the hypothalamus. Anything you can control from their respective gland. Next friends, calcitonin. Okay, everyone remember, I will explain the two hormones at a time. Calcitonin and parathyroid hormone. I am explaining the two hormones at a time in a brief and elaborative way. All the students just pay attention. Friends, keep it in your mind. Calcitonin is released from which gland? Thyroid gland. And parathyroid hormone releasing from which gland? Parathyroid gland. Now the question is very clear. What is the fundamental role of a parathyroid hormone and what is the fundamental role of calcitonin? Keep it in your mind. These two are extremely required to maintain the homeostasis. We all people know it very well, friends. Listen, in our body, follow me very correctly, in our body, not only calcium, any ion, sodium, potassium, chlorine, calcium, bicarbonate, phosphate, any ion in our body, they have to maintain the homeostasis mechanism, which means they should not be released in the higher concentration. At the same time, friends, they should not be released in the lower concentration. If their concentration increases, it causes abnormalities. If their concentration decreases, undoubtedly, my friends, it is going to cause the abnormalities. There is no doubt about it. So what should happen? This is the unique statement. All the students follow me very correctly. Whenever there is a increase in the calcium, follow me correctly, don't get confused. Whenever the calcium level is high, only high, when the calcium level is high, there is no role of parathyroid gland. There is no role of parathyroid hormone. It never ever released. Whenever there is an increased concentration of calcium, then the thyroid gland releases the calcitonin. Now what the calcitonin is doing? Calcitonin will perform three functions. Because the calcium level is high. Now you know what it will do? It will increase the calcium deposition in the bone, which means calcitonin stimulate the bone cells to deposit the calcium, extra calcium. But every student listen to me very carefully. Okay, whatever the excess calcium that is there, we have stored in the bones, no doubt about it. But still the calcium is coming continuously. Now what should we do? Where we can store? Whatever the calcium, whatever the excess calcium is stored in the bones already, but still excess calcium is coming. Now first thing we have to do is we have to block the calcium uptake. So we should not take the much calcium. So what we have to do? We have to decrease the calcium uptake in the intestine, because from the food, whatever the food we take, it contains calcium. So once the intestine will uptake that calcium, that enters into the blood, it reaches to all the areas. We have to stop that. We have to decrease the calcium uptake in the intestine. The next one, we have to decrease calcium reabsorption from urine. So when we stop the reabsorption, what happens? Whatever the excess amount of the calcium is there, that will released in the form of a urine. So whenever excess calcium is releasing in the form of through the urine becomes very painful. We can call painful urine because formation of a calcium crystals in the urine. Don't get confused. So finally what we are doing, we are bringing that particular calcium level to the normal. Next, when the calcium level is low, what is the statement every student has to remember? When the calcium level is low, there is no role of calcitonin. It never releases. When the calcium level is low, friends, follow me correctly, then parathyroid gland is going to release parathyroid hormone. Please do not get confused with this particular statement. The moment parathyroid hormone releases, what is going to happen? I can tell you one word. Whatever the functions performed by the calcitonin, the just opposite functions performed by the parathyroid gland. Once again remember, whatever the functions performed by the calcitonin, just opposite functions performed by the parathyroid. Do not get confused. Now follow me very correctly, friends. What the parathyroid gland is doing, it is increasing the calcium release from the bones, because in the blood calcium level is low, so we require more calcium. So we are releasing the excess calcium stored in the bone, and we have to take a more calcium in the body. So we have to increase the calcium uptake in the intestine. Then from the food, the intestine can uptake more amount of the calcium. And we have to increase the calcium reabsorption from urine, which means we should not allow the calcium to go out of the body through the urine, because the level of calcium is already low. We should not allow it. So we have to increase the reabsorption. We have to get back the calcium, not to be excreted in the form of urine. We should not allow it to excrete in the form of a urine. As a result, friends, calcium level rises. So actually calcitonin and parathyroid hormone are acting opposite. That is the reason we can say both hormones are acting antagonistic to each other. Do not get confused with that. So now the last and final one, which we got the question in our 2022 February paper, that is the adrenaline gland. Okay, so all the students follow me very correctly. Friends, when you look into the adrenal gland, we called them as the suprarenal gland. Why do we use the word suprarenal? Supra, above. Supra is what? Above. Renal, kidney. The glands which are located above the kidney, that's why we can call suprarenal gland. If you look into the structure of an adrenal gland, it contains structurally different parts and functionally also different parts. The outer region you can also call periphery. The outer or periphery region we can call cortex. The inner region we can call it as the medulla. What, friends? The inner region we can call medulla. Please don't think that cortex and medulla can release the same kind of hormones. That is absolutely wrong statement. Cortex release different hormones, medulla release different hormones. So let's talk about the cortex first. If you look into the cortex, all the students please look into the diagram. This is the cortex, right? Now if I do the cross section of a cortex, follow me friends, it contains different cells. It contains zona glomerulosa, it contains zona fasciculata, it contains zona reticularis. From here only we got the last time question. Zona glomerulosa produce mineralocorticoids. Zona fasciculata produce glucocorticoids. Just now we have studied which is a cortisol. Zona reticularis produce the androgens. Now let's talk about the first one, mineralocorticoids. Friends, listen my statements very carefully. Just now we have studied, right, calcitonin and parathyroid hormone controlling the calcium level. Similarly, what is the function of a mineralocorticoid? All the students remember one word. Mineralocorticoids present in our body, they are exclusively responsible for maintenance of the sodium and potassium levels. Maintenance of sodium and potassium level. See friends, everyone keep it in your mind. If there is a fluctuation in the sodium level, if there is a fluctuation in the potassium level, what is happening friends? Blood volume will drastically drop down. When there is a drop down in the blood volume, obviously there is a drop down in the blood pressure. So keep it in your mind without fail. In order to maintain the blood volume, in order to maintain the blood pressure, we will be requiring the sodium and potassium ions in our body. So who is going to maintain their homeostasis? Who is going to maintain the level of a sodium and potassium hemostasis? This can be maintained by a specialized mineralocorticoid called as aldosterone. This is very important even for part B. How does aldosterone will be acting? Aldosterone will be acting by a specialized pathway. We can call it friends RAA pathway. What is RAA pathway? Renin, angiotensin, aldosterone pathway. I'll explain it in a very simple way. First, every student remember what is the ultimate goal of RAA pathway. Ultimate goal is maintaining the sodium and potassium homeostasis. Now let me explain you how is that possible. Follow me friends, correctly understand. There is a requirement and there is an involvement of many hormones. I'll explain once, pay attention. Now every student please look into this. We can expect the similar kind of statements in the exam. Aldosterone hormones helps regulate the blood volume, blood pressure, and it is involved in maintaining the levels of sodium, potassium and H+ in the blood. Now keep it in your mind without fail. There is a condition. All the students pay attention. Okay, what is the condition? There is a condition called dehydration. There is a condition dehydration or the condition of sodium deficiency or hemorrhage. What is hemorrhage? Internal bleeding is happening. Now all the students follow me. When there is a dehydration, when there is a deficiency, when there is a hemorrhage, you know what is happening? There is a drastic drop down in the blood volume. Friends, whenever there is a drastic drop down in the blood volume, there is a drastic drop down in the blood pressure as well. Whenever there is a drastic drop down in the blood pressure, what is happening friends? Please follow me very correctly, all the students. Whenever there is a drop in the blood pressure, two things will happen. What is that? Juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney releases a hormone renin. When there is a drop down in the blood pressure. On the same time, when there is a decrease in the blood pressure, liver cells release a hormone called as angiotensinogen. Follow me very correctly friends. Liver releases angiotensinogen and kidney releases the renin. Now friends, angiotensinogen and renin, these two, you know what they are going to do? They are activating the angiotensin 1. Now the point is very clear. Angiotensin 1 has to compulsory convert into angiotensin 2. What is the reason? Because angiotensin 2 only release the aldosterone. Angiotensin 1 cannot release. Now who is helping? in converting the angiotensin 1 to the angiotensin 2? That's the question. Angiotensin 1 can be converted into the angiotensin 2 by an enzyme called as ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme. Please friends, don't get confused. Who is going to release this angiotensin converting enzyme? Lung. So you try to understand the connectivity in the human body. If the lung is not working, angiotensin converting enzyme cannot be released. If there is no angiotensin converting enzyme, you can't control the aldosterone. If you can't control the aldosterone, blood pressure will be fluctuated, which leads to the heart attack. So you have to understand how one organ is interlinked with the another organ. That is the beauty of human body. Now angiotensin 2 got increased. Now the angiotensin 2 stimulate the adrenal cortex. What the adrenal cortex is doing? Adrenal cortex stimulate the aldosterone. Now that aldosterone, what it will do? It will increase. What it will do? It increase the reabsorption of sodium. It increase the reabsorption of potassium. Once the sodium and potassium reabsorption increases, what happens? The blood volume comes to the normal. Once the blood volume comes to the normal, friends, obviously blood pressure is also coming normal. This is a very simplified RAA pathway. So that is the function of mineralocorticoid. Example of mineralocorticoid, aldosterone. Glucocorticoids we already studied, right? What is the glucocorticoid we studied? That is the cortisol. So right now whatever we have studied is the adrenal cortex, which is the outer region. Now we are going to study the last and final one, adrenal medulla. This entire middle part, what we can call the adrenal medulla. Please follow me very correctly, friends. Whatever the cells that are present in the adrenaline medulla, we call all those cells as the chromaffin cells. What do we call it, that particular cells, friends? We call it that particular cells as the chromaffin cells. All the students follow me very correctly. The chromaffin cells present in the adrenaline medulla synthesizes two hormones, epinephrine or adrenaline, norepinephrine or noradrenaline. Every student follow me very correctly without confusing. I am not talking about the cortex, okay? I am talking only medulla. Adrenal medulla is the region which always connect. What, friends? Which always connect to the sympathetic ganglion. It is always connecting to the sympathetic ganglion. Never ever confuse with that particular point. Cortex never connected with the sympathetic ganglion. Now, friends, what is the function of a adrenaline? All the students follow me. There is no doubt we are calling adrenaline hormone is a most important hormone in our body. There is no doubt. But the reason we are calling it as the most important hormone, it's not because it is released in the emergency conditions. No, the reason why we are calling it as the most important hormone in our entire body, because it increases heart output. How? By increasing the heart rate and contraction. Every student follow me correctly. It increases blood flow to the heart, liver, muscles, adipose tissue. An example, everyone listen to me carefully. A particular person smoking continuously. Whenever a person smoking continuously, what happens? The cigarette contain tobacco contain nicotine. You all people know very well. Once the nicotine released in our blood, what the nicotine is going to do? Nicotine increase the blood flow. Nicotine will increase the level of adrenaline. Follow me correctly, friends. Nicotine is going to increase the level of adrenaline. Then what the adrenaline will do? Adrenaline increases blood flow to the heart. More amount of the blood is getting flowing towards the heart. As a result, heart is unable to pump that excess blood, which leads to the heart failure or the heart attack. Not only that, it also plays a key role in the dilating the lung airways. Because friends, if the lung airways nothing but alveoli. If the alveoli get constricted like this, then we can't breathe only. So they should always in a dilated manner. So that is also can be mediated by the adrenaline only. That's the reason we can call adrenaline is the most important hormone. Okay, so friends, that ends all the hormones. I'll share the PPT right away to all of you. I'm requesting all of you spend 10 minutes of time without fail. Spend 10 minutes of time without fail. I have summarized all the hormones in 3 tables, just 3 tables. I don't know what you do. So one, this is the first table, this is the second table, this is the third table. I don't know what you do, just spend 20-30 minutes right now and revise that, because where I have highlighted the diseases. Okay, so please don't miss it, friends. Just spend 20 minutes and revise it. Okay, so friends, now these 2 days, please don't be stressed out. Just revise whatever you have already studied. Okay, don't be over excited or don't be over stressed. Okay, and please attend tomorrow, which is a very important class at 11:30 a.m. where we will be discussing about the examination hall strategy and how to avoid negative marking in the exam, and how to utilize the 3 hours exactly, how many number of questions to be attempted, which section has to start first, part A, part B, part C, everything we will discuss briefly. Okay, so I'll see you. That's all for today. You please revise it thoroughly. Don't feel unnecessary tensions. Don't take over stress. Don't study any new topic. We'll see in the tomorrow 11:30 a.m. We will discuss these strategies. Okay. Okay friends, that's all for now. I hope the discussion is useful. If you have any kind of a doubt, you can ask me, please. Okay friends, thank you all.